Coming up on Tech News Today, BlackBerry for iOS and Android. Not a question, not a rumor, real thing. We'll explain. Also, Nokia's sexy new Lumia phone and NVidia's pricey game console. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, May 14th, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow, send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile by Citrix. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, go to sharefile.com and click the radio microphone and enter TNT. And by Shutterstock.com. With over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code TNT5. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Isaac Actor.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world, put them in context for you, starting each time with the top 10 stories of the day in the news feeds. BlackBerry CEO Thorsten Heinz kicked off the BlackBerry Live conference announcing the BlackBerry Q5. It's a budget phone similar to the Q10, has a physical keyboard, 3.1-inch touchscreen, and it'll be available worldwide starting as early as July in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. BlackBerry 10.1 will also be available for Z10 owners starting today, or Z10, depending on where you live. Additionally, BlackBerry announced a Twitter-like BlackBerry Messenger Channels service, and iOS and Android BBM coming this summer.
Oh, I like that Z10. Sounds better than
Thank
Z10. Nokia has announced the Lumia 925. That's the latest in Nokia's range using Microsoft Windows Phone software and will be sold for 469 euros if you live in that area, or $610 before taxes and subsidies on carriers such as Vodafone and China Mobile. The phone's lighter than the 920 model. Some folks thought that the 920 was kind of heavy. Utilizes a new smart camera mode as well, a photo editing function that Nokia says will be introduced in all Lumia devices.
NVIDIA's Android-powered handheld console known as Project Shield became official today. First up, it's now called NVIDIA Shield. It's going to cost you $349 and it starts shipping in June. That $350 will also get you 2 full games, Expendable Rearmed and Sonic 4 Episode 2 THD. The device will be available in the US and Canada only. Pre-orders start officially on May 20th, but if you click on the Notify Me button on NVIDIA.com and input some information, you can pre-order today.
No Agent Coulson jokes? Really? All
No,
right.
none.
Fine. In a bid to win over Gmail users, Microsoft is adding Google Chat support to Outlook.com. Starting today, some users will see the ability to log into Google Chat and see contacts on the right side of the email window from Microsoft's Outlook. All Outlook.com users should probably see it within a few days.
Microsoft Windows CFO Tammy Reller announced today that the Windows Blue update to Windows 8 will be free for existing Windows 8 and Windows RT users, and that Windows Blue is officially Windows 8.1. Reller also said Microsoft now has more than 70,000 Metro-style Windows Store apps in the Windows Store, and the final version of Windows Blue, both the Windows 8 and RT versions, will be made available to customers through the Windows Store once they're available.
Because someone demanded it, Amazon just released a standalone Cloud Player music app for Windows. The desktop client brings offline support and keeps your music library in sync by detecting when you add music from outside sources like CDs and iTunes. For you Mac users, Amazon says it's working on a version just for you.
Social Roulette launched Saturday, giving users a 1 in 6 chance of having their Facebook account deleted when they choose to play the game. Within a few hours of launch, Facebook had blocked the app for, quote, creating a negative user experience. The app's creators say it was meant for users who wish to delete their account anyway, but maybe wanted a more fun or thrilling way to do it.
The Google Cloud Platform Developer Relations Team wants you to participate in an experiment. On its blog today, the team outlined a plan to gather a bunch of environmental information happening around you if you so happen to be hanging out at Moscone Center at Google I/O this week. Hundreds of Arduino-based environmental sensors will be placed around the conference space and tracking things like temperature, noise levels, humidity, air quality, all in real time. The experiment could point to future technology to track indoor events or businesses.
Watch out, Jason, how they're probably checking height, too. I'm just saying. New systems with Intel's 4th generation core processor, a.k.a. Haswell, are set to be unveiled at Computex on June 3rd. Unless you're NEC, and you just can't wait that long. NEC released full specs of their 15.6-inch touchscreen Haswell-based laptop, the Levy L, but actually didn't leak that much about Haswell itself, so they played by the rules somewhat. When it comes to Haswell, that should be bringing more improved graphics and battery life to the chip, and reports today say it integrates a voltage regulator on die to achieve a lot of those power savings.
All right, start those color Kindle rumors right now because Amazon just bought color e-ink company Liquid Vista from Samsung. Liquid Vista demoed a color e-ink display at CES way back in ancient times, 2011. That was the same year Samsung bought the company. Specifics about Amazon's acquisition weren't disclosed.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by ShareFile by Citrix. It's not only what we do at work, but how we do it that makes the difference. Our flow of information needs to be ongoing, collaborative, time efficient. Whether you're in the office or whether you're out on the road, ShareFile helps you do all of that easily and securely. ShareFile by Citrix seamlessly integrates into your daily routine. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what mobile device you got. You got a mobile device, you're in. With ShareFile, files of almost any size are sent as secure links. The best part I like, notifications are sent to you when they're opened to track their progress, and files can be password protected for ultimate control. Plus, you can set up shared folders and collaborate with your clients and coworkers in a snap. ShareFile will change the way you work. To help you get started, we have a special 30-day free trial offer, no obligation. You're going to see the difference right away. To get our special offer, go to sharefile.com today. Click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and enter TNT. That's sharefile.com. Type in TNT. And we thank Citrix and ShareFile for their ongoing support of Tech News Today. Joining us now to discuss some of the stories in the headlines, we are happy to have Dana Wollman, Senior Reviews Editor from Engadget, back on the show. Welcome back, Dana.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Let's start by digging into that BlackBerry Live news. A bunch of stuff to go through there. Ayaz, give us the scoop.
Yeah, Tom, you hit the major points on the news fuse, but BlackBerry Live, Thorsten Heinz was talking up the company's phones, saying no one makes keyboards better than them, and then introduced BlackBerry 10.1, which adds keyboard shortcuts, personalized notifications, and refinements to cursor controls. So nothing too exciting in 10.1, but the Z10 gets 10.1 today, and it's going to be pushed to the majority of carrier partners by the end of the week, although there was no mention as to how many BlackBerry 10 devices were sold. Then BlackBerry introduced the Q10, which was that thing we saw that was called the R5, meant for emerging markets, no price announced, dual-core 1.2 gigahertz processor, little square screen, QWERTY keyboard, launches in the summer. Then for apps, Heinz talked about how Skype is coming to BlackBerry 10.1. It's now available, as is Moog, a music app. BlackBerry rolled now with 120,000 apps, and Heinz mentioned that BlackBerry's app revenue per user is more than double that of Google Play. Then they showed off BlackBerry Messenger Channels, which is this kind of social network where brands can extend their messages through BBM. But I think the biggest news out of the whole show was BBM coming to multiple platforms, iOS 6 and higher, Android Ice Cream Sandwich and higher, this summer and for free. Messaging and groups features come first, future parity for the rest of the year with voice, screen share, video, and BBM channels later in the year. Heinz claimed this is a statement of confidence and thinks BlackBerry Messenger can be an independent messaging solution. And there's some other weird, little tricks that happened. Heinz demoed a Bentley running BlackBerry 10, and then Alicia Keys showed up again, announcing BlackBerry launching the new BlackBerry Scholars Program, which offers a full 4-year scholarship to outstanding women candidates around the world. And BlackBerry is also sponsoring a Formula One car. Dana, does any of this sound exciting?
I think the most exciting news may have been the BBM news, just that it's not in this walled garden anymore, and it might make BlackBerries a little more interoperable with other devices. The rest of it, I digested it. I heard you. I'm not lingering too long on it. Do you find it exciting?
So the Formula One car didn't do for you?
No, sadly.
So,
I was actually editing a news post this morning, and there was a mention of that driver, and I actually had to edit the post to clarify that he was a Formula One driver, just because I figured if I didn't know, there had to be other people like me out there.
Sarah, what did you make of this announcement? It seems like there was a little bit when it came to the technical stuff coming out and a whole lot of extra show, including these two cars that they showed off. Actually, I think it was Mercedes-Benz showed up, an actual Bentley showed up, and then that race car.
I don't know. I want to be excited. I mean, this is there's a lot of stuff going on, right? I guess I'm kind of excited about BBM coming to iOS. I mean, not just iOS, but Android as well, just because it's sort of like, finally, there's something that BlackBerry makes that I would be able to use on a regular basis. I don't know who I'm going to talk to, because we've all figured out other options at this point. But I think that's kind of fascinating. The car stuff it's very Me Too. That's what it sounds like to me. But you know, in-car video calling, we're going to actually get to another story later in the show about car safety. So it kind of makes me laugh a little bit. Keep it to the back seat. But yeah, this seems like a big announcement. And as with anything with BlackBerry, I always feel like it's just like a year too late.
Tom, do you think Sarah's right that the BlackBerry Messenger being cross-platform is too little, too late?
No, I think this is actually really good for BlackBerry, and I think it's pretty late, but I don't think it's too late. And I think launching channels is one of the things that helps it. The channels service sounds really dumb until they announce that they're on iOS and Android. And then all of a sudden it's a Twitter competitor, and it's a Twitter competitor that's not starting from scratch. A lot of people still use BlackBerry Messenger. And if they can get brands, companies interested in using channels, then all of a sudden you've got a different way to communicate with an audience, and an audience that's pre-existing. And I think that's BlackBerry's big advantage here. And I think it shows that Thorsten Heinz knows BlackBerry's future may not be in continuing to make devices, so they've got to start making the services, but they can't abandon the devices yet, right? They have to put out the Q5, and they have to put out, you know, a new operating system for the Z10. They have to continue to upgrade phones and make good BlackBerry phones for BlackBerry fans, because their services side isn't there yet. But this is the first step towards a new BlackBerry saying, we're going to get into providing a messaging service, and we're really good at messaging service. So sure, you may have almost started to forget about us, but we're going to try to make you come back and understand us. And I'll be interested if Sarah's right, where people just kind of shrug at this and go, I don't know, or if it's got enough momentum behind it that all of a sudden people start going, oh, that's on BlackBerry Messenger? I guess I better install that.
Yeah, and there's obviously a growing acceptance of third-party messaging services. WhatsApp is out there. There's iMessages, and there are all these other things that are supposed to be cross-platform. iOS messaging, obviously not cross-platform, but they're supposed to, a lot of the other ones are cross-platform. I think with BlackBerry's move into Android and iOS, I think it's intriguing to see if they will continue doing other software options, if they can keep that BBM app on iOS and Android on par with the ones that are on BlackBerry. I think a lot of people might start realizing how good that service is, because as far as I know with BlackBerry users, BBM was awesome way before WhatsApp showed up. And this is the kind of thing people wanted to use on every platform. If it's out and they eventually do add voice, screen share, and video, that's going to make that a pretty powerful application on every platform.
But I mean, isn't that sort of like the reason that apps like WhatsApp have become so popular, is because they filled a need that BBM didn't live up to? So again, it's like catching up with something that you started, but everyone has other options, a lot of other options.
I think BlackBerry can hang its hat on security when it comes to that, because WhatsApp is out there and people are like, well, who's behind you guys? What happens if your network goes down? I believe BlackBerry they own the infrastructure, the network behind BlackBerry Messenger, so that actually changes things when it comes to the way messages are delivered.
And a lot of people, we may not run in those circles, but a lot of people still use BlackBerry Messenger. So it comes in with a big audience already. I think that's the other advantage. It won't necessarily compete head-to-head with WhatsApp demographically. I think it'll be a different demo that uses it. Interesting to watch. On the other side of the coin is Nokia making their bid to get back in this game. Lumia 925 came out today. It'll be arriving on T-Mobile in the USA, Vodafone, China Mobile, It's basically the Lumia 920, but with an aluminum case, so it's prettier. 1.5 gigahertz dual core, gigabyte of RAM, 16 gig, 32 gig models, 4.5-inch AMOLED screen. It's pretty, 1280 by 768. Comes with a new app that'll be available for other phones later in the year, Nokia Smart Camera. It's one of those things that captures 10 images. You can choose which image you like, or you can blend them together. And it's going to sell for 469 euros. Although they were indicating that it'll probably be available on T-Mobile as a $99 upfront, and then you pay it off as you go along. Now, this comes at the same time that Gartner announced that Nokia's Q1 numbers were down 5% in market share to 14.8% worldwide total phones, not just smartphones. Samsung has 23.6%. So that market share number is still going in the opposite direction from Nokia. When you pair up the 925, the 928, and the 920, you've got three nice phones covering the spectrum here in the U.S. on the different carriers. Dana, does this complete Nokia's next step into getting back into the game?
I think it's a promising start for now. And in a way, it might be even better news for Microsoft and Windows Phone than for Nokia. Obviously, we've just seen these sales numbers from Gartner, and I can't argue with that. I would like to think that Windows Phone itself still has some momentum, and this does seem like a great flagship device to showcase that. It really does correct one of the big flaws that people found with the 920, which is that it was sort of big and heavy and bulky to hold. And if you look at side-by-side photos of the 920 and the 925, the 925 is markedly thinner, and apparently it's feels lighter too. So it seems like a big improvement from where I'm sitting, having not handled it myself.
Yeah, it's supposedly about 50 grams lighter than the other phones. Sarah, does this turn your head at all? It's a nice looking phone.
It's a nice looking phone. I'm always, my phone is basically a camera that does a lot of other stuff. That's how I feel about my iPhone anyway. So the camera functionality sounds awesome. I think, it'll be interesting to see what kind of pictures people are taking with this. But to me, that's sort of what draws me to it. I also think that Dana's probably right that this is better news for Windows Phone fans. I think Nokia's issue is your question, Tom, is sort of like, okay, well, these are all great. I mean, what's wrong with these phones? Nothing. Am I going to buy one? No. So it's just sort of like, how many people are actually going to rush out and say, I actually want one of these phones? I know some people in chat are saying, absolutely me, but I don't know that the numbers are really all that strong.
Ayaz, you got any sugar? You got any love for Nokia here?
Yeah, sure I do. The thing is, when it comes to the Lumia 925, the aluminum body, design is starting to matter again, because the HTC One was winning lots of rave reviews because it's designed really well. When you're going to be having a device for 2 years in your pocket, in your hand, constantly, you start realizing how cheap some of the Samsung phones feel. You start realizing that, hey, the Nokia was pretty aggressive when they did that polycarbonate body. And this being a smaller design and also being lighter and actually having a premium with aluminum on the casing, it might distinguish it against all the other devices out there, because Windows Phone 8 is very uniform when it comes from phone to phone to phone. HTC 8X or the Nokia whatever, or the Samsung Ativ, they're all very similar in the UI. But if you can stand out in design, I think Nokia's got a chance with this, and they did that with their Lumia line in the very beginning. And I think aluminum is a good start too.
It's a good start. Well, and this isn't the end. I mean, Nokia has definitely already indicated they've got another line coming out later this year, but we'll keep our eyes on that. Meanwhile, Square trying to get farther into the retail space and nail themselves to the counter, literally.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Square announced the Square Stand, which is a piece of hardware, basically, that works with Square Register. Square Register is Square's point of sale system, which is based on the iPad. Square Stand works with Register to give merchants access to real-time analytics, reporting. It has a card reader built in, basically just meant to sit on top of a counter, connects to a receipt printer and a kitchen printer. So let's say you're in a cafe. The kitchen printer would basically hook up to a printer that would print out instructions for, cooks or, people on the assembly line to put orders together. Cash drawer would hook up to a cash drawer, does not include one, and barcode scanner. And it works with an iPad 2 or 3, although Square says there will be a version for iPads with Lightning connectors available later this year. I wonder what they know. And it will run $300, available for pre-order today. If you go to squareup.com/stand, if you're a merchant who's interested in that. You can also, as a customer, be able to purchase the Square Stand in Best Buy stores and other retailers starting the first week of July. It looks pretty cool. I mean, it definitely looks like something, that Apple almost put together themselves. What's interesting is just during the show, and this is, I'm sure, not coincidental timing, PayPal actually is trying to steal a little bit of Square's thunder. They announced Cash for Registers today, which is a program to encourage merchants to switch over to some sort of PayPal-powered point-of-sale solutions. PayPal is offering to local retailers in exchange for handing in their, as they call it, dusty old cash registers for PayPal's services. The company will offer to waive credit, debit, and check and PayPal processing fees for the rest of this year. As merchants know, some of those fees can really add up. So this is very attractive. Dana, what do you think? I mean, is it just sort of like how many horses in this race for, the next generation of point of sale?
I don't know if there's room for too many horses. I definitely think there's room for more than one. And Square has, fortunately for itself, gotten a head start. When I think of point of sale systems, at least for mobile devices, Square is the first that I think of. And I know I can't be the only one. Its solution is pretty inexpensive. It's easy to use. I don't know how crowded the market is going to get, but I think Square was lucky to get in there early.
Ayaz, what do you think? Square, this whole hardware thing from Square is very interesting because you've got Square apps where, as a customer, you can walk into certain merchants and basically have a hands-free transaction. You've got hardware for merchants, but PayPal is a huge company. It's owned by eBay. I mean, which would you choose?
I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I think PayPal's offer right up front right now to waive a lot of these fees for the rest of the year, that's a really smart way to get a bunch of people interested in either going to PayPal or switching to PayPal. I think that's a really intriguing thing. I think with the Square hardware, though, I think this is something that needed to happen. If there's a coffee shop here that always uses Square, and they have that little dongle, and every time they have to hold it steady while they're swiping the card. It's not exactly built for this kind of thing. So this kind of hardware makes it look a little bit more professional, makes it seem like one of the older style cash registers. So I think that's also an intelligent move. If I was going to go into this, I probably would be looking for the one with the lowest fees, because I was talking to some local merchants here in Petaluma, and that was the biggest concern. It's not just about it's the fees, because it doesn't matter how much inventory you can track or how many cards you can take. If you're losing out because your processing company is taking all your money, it's not worth it.
Yeah, that's
Tom. I know you're a Square user when available. PayPal's offering. PayPal also has a merchant app for iPads, an iPad stand. Also connects to a cash drawer and printer. I mean, none of us are exactly running our own storefronts, but where do you see the winner here?
I don't know. I don't understand why a business would get this. It's $329 for an iPad mini, or more expensive if you want a full iPad. And then you're paying another $300 for the stand, and it doesn't even come with a cash drawer. And it's 2.75%, which is not the best rate you can get, or $275 a month, but there's a limit on the number of transactions then. This just seems really expensive to look hip. But you're right. As a Square customer, I love being able to just walk in, say, hey, put it on Tom's tab and stuff. So maybe that's where it makes sense is, well, okay, so it's twice as expensive as a regular cash register. That's a one-time cost, but I'll make it up because people will want to shop here because of our nifty Squareness or something. Well,
no, what you just said, looking hip, but then you said, as the customer, it's extremely convenient. So, I mean, I think that's basically... it's the investment, right, into your customers saying, this is the easiest cafe ever to get a coffee. I'm going to come back.
Yeah. Pays for itself is what the Square people will tell you. Speaking of paying for itself, we got to pay for ourselves. This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Shutterstock.com. With over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock has what you need for your creative project. Take it to the next level and use Shutterstock.com. You can find 20 million, more than 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. I guarantee it's more than 20 million because it was 20 million when we wrote this ad copy, but they're adding 10,000 images every day. And they're not just adding anything. They actually review every image they add here. A lot of them are from professional photographers and artists. So you can choose the best image for your creative project. And I love their search engine. It's kind of amazing what you can throw at that thing. And it will come back with the image you need. You want a cash register? They got tons of pictures of cash registers. You can choose individual image packs or a monthly subscription for the best deal. You download 25 images a day with the standard subscription. That's a ton. And you can download any image in any size. You pay only one price. Shutterstock gives you the images you need to bring your creative projects to the next level. So why not try it today? Sign up for a free account. No credit card needed. Just start an account. Begin using Shutterstock to help imagine what your next project could be. Save some images to their Lightbox to review later. And once you decide to purchase, use offer code TNT5, and new accounts will receive 30% off any package. 30% off new accounts. Don't forget Shutterstock.com. Use that offer code TNT5. And we thank Shutterstock for their support of Tech News Today. Onward into S.H.I.E.L.D. What is going on with the NVIDIA S.H.I.E.L.D.? It's real now. It's not just a CES demo.
Yeah, it was showing up at CES 2013 this January. It was kind of a surprise. It was called Project S.H.I.E.L.D. It looks like an Xbox controller attached to a screen that folds into it. Now, it's official starting today. It costs $350. You can pre-order it today if you're willing to go through the little notify me process at NVIDIA.com. And it's going to be available in June. It's going to be available also on NVIDIA.com, Canada Computers, Micro Center, GameStop, and Newegg. So it's going to be all over the place. It weighs 1.2 pounds, and inside you got a Tegra 4 processor, 16 gigabytes of storage. Now at CES, they showed a 32 gigabyte version, 2 gigabytes of RAM, GPS, mini HDMI output that outputs 4K video. There's no cell modem inside. And one of the bigger features that NVIDIA showed off in CES was PC gaming via streaming. Now, NVIDIA says that feature is going to be beta. And when The Verge tried it out, the PC and S.H.I.E.L.D. had trouble connecting. The setup also requires an approved simultaneous dual-band Wi-Fi router to function. Only works with a limited selection of Steam Big Picture Mode and GeForce Experience titles. So it seems a little limited. So that's a beta when it starts off. And S.H.I.E.L.D. presently only displays Android in landscape mode. So NVIDIA is working with app makers to make sure that their apps will work on the S.H.I.E.L.D. Dana, do you think there's room in the market for a $350 handheld console?
I don't want to be too pessimistic, and I don't want to have to eat my words later, but I think the market for dedicated gaming handhelds is challenging enough as it is. You can ask Nintendo, and they'll tell you something similar. But here, it's not just the sell of a dedicated gaming device. Albeit it's a versatile one. It's really cool that you can stream PC games and also do Android. But it's not just a dedicated handheld we're talking about. It's one that requires a specific a minimum GPU by NVIDIA and the GeForce Experience. So that's automatically cutting out some gamers who might otherwise be interested. Even NVIDIA might tell you it's a niche product, but I don't know if that
is it too niche?
It is a niche product. Right. I don't know if calling it a niche product, I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a cute or charming thing or an excuse. When it comes time to tally the sales, I think it is a niche product. And yeah.
Could it be a niche of one? That could be the problem, especially at that price point, right? $350 for this thing. I think it looks cool, but no games, $350, 5-inch screen, I don't know.
It's $100 more expensive than PlayStation Vita. It also has exchangeable faceplates. If you want to spend 20 extra bucks, you can change the face of it. I just can't see how it's going to compete for dollars up against the next generation Xbox, the new PlayStation, smartphones. It's $350, and it requires a lot of customization to Android. Sarah, do you think NVIDIA's lost its mind by actually introducing this? I mean, prototypes are great, but they're actually coming out with this.
Well, I think you think that NVIDIA's lost its mind. I agree that this is a niche product. The whole like change your faceplate type thing, I don't get that at all. But then again, I don't have a cover on my smartphone either. It's too expensive to be such a niche product. You know what I mean? It's like, what's the deal here? Is NVIDIA really in the business of making products that just a few people will like a lot? It doesn't seem like the market is going in this direction at all. And the fact that it's more expensive than popular competitors makes very little sense to me. I mean, why couldn't well, it's probably expensive to make, but it seems like the price point specifically is very odd.
Yeah, I see you in the chat rooms like a Nexus 7 plus a PlayStation 3 controller, and you got this thing beat already. It does seem a little bit strange that it's really limited at the start now. You know, who knows what could change over the course of years. NVIDIA says every year they're going to update the device, new internals as processing technology changes. I just think coming out of the gate against the next-gen consoles and this market that already is saturated when it comes to handhelds, thanks to phones, I think NVIDIA's got a really hard time with this product because $350, that's a lot of money.
We promise if you spend $350 on this that we'll make it obsolete every year. Amazon has released a standalone cloud player for their music service. We mentioned it in the news fuse. Essentially, it's a beefed up version of their music sync software. So it'll do all those things like scan your hard drive, take your tunes, put them up in the cloud, take stuff that you have in your cloud, put them down. Now you get 250 songs that are not purchased at Amazon for free with Amazon, but you have to pay for the rest of the storage. The biggest thing they're touting, though, is that the thing is only 31.9 megabytes. As a comparison, iTunes is 288.2 megabytes. So this is a much smaller app, and people have been complaining about the bloating of iTunes for a long time. Now, honestly, I was interested in this because I've been trying to get off of using iTunes as my music management system for a long time, and Amazon's been where I've been leaning because I pay for the cloud service, so I have a lot of storage up there. It has a nice music store, so it's easy to buy stuff and have it automatically added to the cloud, but I didn't know what to do on my desktop. Now they may have solved that for me. Of course, I have to wait for the OS X version. I did try out the PC version today, and it downloaded and installed in a snap. It's pretty darn simple to use. Like, you get it right away. Like, oh, that's how I create playlists. This is how I manage it. It scanned my library very fast. Am I, though, speaking of niche products, the only one who's interested in this? Data, do you think this is just a sideline for Amazon, or could this sway people back to buying stuff from Amazon's music store?
I don't think it's a niche product at all. I mean, I'm biased, and I'm just being purely anecdotal here, but I also want this software as much as you do. I think it looks like a much more intuitive, organized way of not only accessing the music, but syncing it. I think I would get a lot of use out of, particularly since I did hit a point where I realized I was locked into the iTunes ecosystem, and I did move over to Amazon. So I think that this would be the next step for me, having this piece of software. Like you said, I just wish it were available for Mac.
Yeah, I not only say that because I have an OS X laptop, but you know, it will get there. I don't know why they didn't launch it at the same time. You think this is silly, don't you?
No, I don't actually, because I end up using, I don't know, I hardly ever use the music manager services anymore. If there's iTunes or the things I end up using is something like Google Music Manager, which you don't really use that to organize things. But I like the idea of having everything in sync, because as I keep adding devices, I want to be able to access my music on pretty much anything. And so the fact that it can touch your iTunes library and sync that up, so if I'm using my Amazon Cloud Player application, I'll be able to get everything there. Or I'm using Google Music Manager, I'll be able to do the same thing. I think it's kind of silly that Apple doesn't really have an answer to this other than iTunes Cloud, or iTunes Match, that is, which doesn't do a consistent job of this as far as I'm concerned. So I think it's interesting to see Amazon just go in there and say, look, use our services, will work better. And I got to say, the UI is really pretty. It reminds me of the Kindle Fire HD. It's probably going to keep people in the Amazon ecosystem, and they'll buy music much more with them.
Now, I'm an old man, obviously. I think everything's too expensive, and I want my music on my computer, on my desktop. But, Sarah, kids these days, they want subscription services, right?
Well, I do, because I'm very youthful, Tom. But no, I understand that, just paying a monthly fee for streaming music is not the solution for everybody. And, I think this is actually a really good idea. For me, yes, I also have a laptop running OS 10, so I'm going to be waiting a while. But on my PC right now, for my music library, what are my options? Well, I've got iTunes, and that's, kind of my best option, right? Well, there are a lot of things wrong with iTunes. It's just that I'm so used to it that I just kind of suffer and mumble and grumble here and there. With Amazon offering a competitor that could be run on not just my mobile devices, but all of my computers eventually, that's just one more reason for me to say, I'm gonna stay with an Amazon because I've got it on everything, and Amazon's really, really good at doing that. So, I think this is great.
Yeah, I think this probably is a quiet victory for Amazon. I'll be interested if it catches on or not, whether it grabs hold of people's attention. But I love it. I already installed it, and I am going today to make the final transition. I'm going to join you, Dana, in Amazon Music Managementness, and then I won't have to be on any platform for mobile. Because the only reason I'm stuck on iOS right now is because I'm like, well, that's where my music is managed. Let's talk about a serious issue: texting and teens. Sarah, what are the carriers doing to address this?
Well, the carriers want teens to put down their phones while they are driving. In fact, they're saying, hey, everybody, you really need to take this seriously. AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, and T-Mobile, along with about 200 other organizations, are officially backing a campaign to discourage driving and texting. I mean, this is a big campaign. It's going to be on Goodyear blimps. I don't know, something's going to be on it anyway. Store displays, community events. There's going to be a social media outreach plan. There's going to be a national tour of a driving simulator. And this, of course, is in response to the idea that, if you text and drive, you are way more likely to get in a car accident than if you don't. AT&T and Verizon have been very vocal against texting and driving. They've both had ads running since 2009. And AT&T CEO Randall Stevenson says texting while driving is a deadly habit that makes you 23 times more likely to be involved in a crash. He references a government study of bus and truck drivers from back in 2009. Which is funny because actually a spokesman for the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety, Russ Rader, says there's no question that phone use is causing crashes, but so far it doesn't appear to be adding to the overall crash problem. The Insurance Institute of Highway Safety is funded by the insurance industry, which you would think would want to make the most of the idea that texting and driving is really dangerous. Dana, is this just sort of like a goodwill? Does this make these companies who obviously are selling us phones and want us to use them as much as possible, does it make them look like they care about the public? Is this a good use of ad dollars?
I think absolutely. And normally I might be a little bit cynical, but here in this case, the ads themselves are so upsetting and so gut-wrenching at some points that it's hard not to see it as an earnest attempt on the part of the carriers. And I think it's a good thing that they're uniting behind the "It can wait" slogan. Like I said, those ads are unforgettable and they're truly upsetting. And I think that's absolutely a reason to spend more money on them and for more carriers to get on board and pull together more money to make the ads even more visible. I don't know how visible they are now. I think if you happen to be watching MTV sometimes, you can... you might see them, but I don't know how visible they are now and to how many demographics. So I think it's a great idea to get those ads in front of eyeballs, not just teenagers, but even more people.
As there are laws against using a cell phone while you're driving in 39 states, plus the District of Columbia. It's somewhat surprising to me that it's not all 50 yet. And yeah, a lot of this outreach is directed towards teenage drivers, which, are known to be irresponsible in a variety of ways, texting just one of them. But what about the idea that, there are certain studies that say, well, it's not necessarily contributing to a lot more crashes after all?
I think the thing is the fact that it's not outlawed in every state is because there are reckless driving laws. We've talked about that a bunch of times. But the studies can go either way. If you're distracted, it also depends on your experience level. This is why teenagers are usually implicated in these kinds of studies. They're inexperienced drivers. And so giving them another distraction, or giving any inexperienced driver, let's say you're 30 and you just get your license, the first couple of times you're messing with the radio, or you're messing with your AC or your phone, you're more likely to get into an accident. This is an experience issue more than anything, and teens obviously will be the first ones to get their license, and they're excited to do that. But you have a totally different kind of world now with tons of text messages, and you got your integration with your cars. So I think that it's also good for the carriers, by the way. They do not want to get regulated and find out that their bread and butter, their phones are being stopped in vehicles in the United States. They want to make sure that people keep buying phones as well. So
BlackBerry Messenger will save them. Don't worry.
That's right, because it'll be built into their Mercedes-Benz or Bentley or F1 car.
That's right. I think you're right. And I think that this suggests there might be a finite amount of distraction going on. And whether it's text messaging or cell phones or the radio or makeup or dog in the back seat, that there's always a certain amount of distracted driving that will cause accidents. And having text messages become a new distraction didn't seem to increase the amount of distracted driving. Maybe we just need a campaign against distracted driving and not text messages in particular. I don't know. That's the law I'm going to pass in the Republic of Tech News Today-istan. Let's move on to the random.
Absurdistan.
Yeah, right.
I like that.
Google is celebrating the 37th anniversary of the launch of Atari's Breakout, which actually was May 13th, 1976, by putting a little Easter egg in Google image search. In fact, if you go to Google image search and type in Atari Breakout, you'll immediately get a search, but then you'll be able to play Breakout with the images from the search. Check that out.
All right, Tom, how did this get into the lineup? I mean, this is not a Google Doodle, so this counts.
This is not a Google Doodle.
Is that
no,
all it takes? Just make it an Easter egg?
This is the most popular Google Easter egg of the day.
Oh, you
also
dislike these intensely.
It's something I need to add to the chronology of tech history, this anniversary. Also, I love Breakout.
I see what this is.
So it's
Don't
the
you like
breakout thing.
It's a Breakout hit. Also, it gave me a chance to play Breakout in the middle of the show.
Oh, I understand that.
Were you a Breakout fan, Sarah, Jason, Ayaz, Kurt, Dana, anybody?
Oh, yeah. I love Breakout.
See? Breakout's the best. Yeah.
It is the best.
It's meditative.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like Breakout, you haven't played Breakout.
You haven't lived. Let's see what's on the calendar.
Jeez, tough crowd. Aereo is coming to Atlanta. We know later this month, Aereo is expanding to Boston. The company has said we're coming to other markets. So Atlanta happens on June 17th for pre-registered users, June 24th for everyone else. And a reminder that Google I.O. starts tomorrow. And your happy TNT News team will be live on the air starting at 8 a.m. Pacific time. 9, 10, 11 a.m. Eastern. So please do join us for an early episode of TNT before we get into live coverage of the show.
Now, unlike most of these special events, we'll not be adding a separate bit after Google I/O because Google I/O is apparently going to be a 3-hour-long keynote. So we'll have an early TNT tomorrow. Essentially, it'll post a little earlier, and then we'll discuss Google I/O in the show afterwards, the day afterwards. Next week for Xbox announcement will be a little early, but then TNT will be a little later because we'll wait until after the announcement to kind of finish things up. Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
We got an email from Alan who says about the Sony e-reader. I could see this device being great for pilots as a replacement for manuals and checklists. I know some commercial pilots are using customized iPads in this role, but it seems like the large size, readability, and long battery life would be great in the cockpit or other commercial applications with long checklists. This is Alan reminding us that e-ink reader display thing that Sony's coming out with may have a use that we're all kind of like, why does this exist?
Well, especially if it's cheaper than iPads, that might make sense. Actually, good thought, Alan. Well, that is it for this episode of Tech News Today. Dana Wallman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I know you had a little fight with your internet connection today, so we appreciate the perseverance. You did great. It was great to have you. Glad you fought through it. Let folks know what you're working on in Engadget, where they can find your work, all that good stuff.
Great. My Twitter name is just my handle. It's Dana Wallman, my full name. And yeah, come by Engadget. Busy day today and busy week today. So check it out.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. It's WOLLMAN, 2 L's in Wollman. So find her on Twitter, Dana Wallen. And thank you all for submitting stories in our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. We look at it every day to come up with our lineup. We see what are folks voting on in there, and we use that in crafting what we hope will be a good show each and every day. So get in there and vote and submit links, technewstoday.reddit.com. That is it for this episode of Tech News Today. You can find us anytime, day or night, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, tnt@twit.tv, and give us a call, leave us a voice message. Keep it under 30 seconds. We might actually play it on the show, 260-TNT Show. As we mentioned, back early tomorrow with Aaron Newcomb as our guest, and he'll stick around and stay with us for Google I.O. coverage. We'll see you then.